Hello, my name is Susan Starkman, and I'm a programmer here at the festival. I hope you enjoyed When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, and welcome to our special Zoom Q&A. We really appreciate the support of the Goethe-Institut of Canada, the Nürnberger Holocaust Education Center, for getting the word out about our special screening. TJFF 2020 Zoom Q&As are sponsored by Delaney Capital Management. We are very lucky to have director Caroline Link with us here today. Children are front and center in Caroline Link's work. Her first film, Beyond the Silence, is about a hearing girl with deaf parents and was nominated for the Academy Award as Best Foreign Film. Eric and Anton brought Eric Hassner's classic novel into the present. Her film Nowhere in Africa was adapted by Link from the autobiographical novel by Stephanie Zweig and received an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, as well as 5 German film prizes, including Best Feature Film. A Year Ago in Winter revolved around the consequences of a boy's suicide for his mother and sister, and Exit Marrakesh was about a father and son trying to reconcile. In 2018, Link directed All About Bee, based on the childhood of renowned German comedian Happe Kerkeling. That film will be opening the European Union Film Festival on November 13th, so make sure that you go and buy your tickets for that. So please join me in welcoming Caroline Link to the screen. Hi, Caroline.
Hello, Susan.
How are you?
I am fine. I am happy that I can talk to you tonight.
Well, we're thrilled that you are doing this Zoom Q&A with us. And first of all, I want to thank you for making such a beautiful film out of such a beloved novel that I remember reading when I was a kid, and that's a very, very long time ago. So that's where I want to start the questioning. I mean, I know that you gravitate to films that are told from children's point of view. What made you, how long have you known that you wanted to make this into a film? And how did you come about coming to the project? And did Judith Carr know about the adaptation? Did you speak to her? Because I know that she died in 2019.
Yes. Like you, Susan, I read the book when I was a little girl. It was mandatory to read the book in my childhood in German schools. When I was 11, I think, 1975, we read the book for the school, and I was very grateful to Judith Kerr that I didn't have to be afraid of the story. I didn't feel that I was shocked or that the story was overwhelmingly cruel or brutal, because of course we knew as children a little bit about the Second World War, about the Holocaust, about dark things, horrible things happened in that time. And so there was nothing really that you could give children, smaller children, to open the conversation about that dark period of our history. So I loved the book. I was very moved by the book. I loved the character Anna. And the producers offered that novel to me a few years ago. I thought, oh, wonderful. This is really a story that meant something to me my whole life, and that I would really take a closer look at it again.
And did you speak to Judith before?
I spoke to Judith. I spoke a few times to her. She didn't travel anymore that much, and she was very busy with finishing her last children's book in England. She lived in London, and she didn't want to travel, but we spoke about the screenplay. I sent her my movie Nowhere in Africa, which she liked a lot, and it was a story about a Jewish family in exile in Kenya as well. So she trusted me, I think, although she always wanted to read the different drafts of the screenplay that I developed. And we talked a lot about the changes I made, why I made them. She didn't really want anything to be changed, but we talked, and I was very, very sad and deeply moved when she died in May 2019, a few weeks only before we would have been able to show the
Oh,
film.
shame. Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about casting, because the little girl who plays, I mean, everybody is very good, but the little girl who plays Anna is just this tiny little adult. She's fantastic. So how did you cast her, and had she read the book?
Yeah, Riva is from Berlin. She lives in Berlin, and we did a huge casting in Germany for that part, Anna. And Riva was already in an agency, even though she didn't do anything yet in front of the camera, but she really wanted to play in a movie. And she walked in the casting studio, and the first thing she told me was that she goes to the same school that Judith Kerr went to before they had to leave Germany. And then she thought that qualifies her for the job. And she was very sweet, and we looked at each other, the casting director and I, and we said, oh, let's hope that she's not only cute and sweet, but that she has some talent too. And then I gave her some lines, and we tried to do some scenes, and I realized right away that she has a deep understanding for the story and what the story is about. Riva is from a Jewish family, and so I think
Oh,
that whole time has a meaning to her. Yeah.
oh, okay, that's very interesting. And this is a question from Alexander. In your research on Jewish refugees leaving Germany before Hitler came into power, approximately what percentage of Jews were able to leave in time, like the Carr family, to places like Switzerland, France, and England?
To what? I didn't get that.
So do you know what percentage of Jews were actually able to flee Germany before?
Oh, I wouldn't. I don't want to tell you a wrong number, but I think in that time, 1933, not very many Jewish Germans thought that would be necessary. I heard from many in my research from many Jewish people that they never would have thought that it comes so as we know now, that it became very serious and very horrible. You know, even Julius, the character Julius in my movie, he told them, "Why are you leaving? Don't you think it's a little bit too much? It's too early, too soon, too sudden. It's not going to happen." And also with the family from nowhere in Africa, they told me, Stephanie Zweig told me that her mother didn't want to leave. She said, "This will be over. Germans are a cultivated people. You know, they don't let Hitler take over." And that's why not so many people wanted to leave at that time. I think much later than yes, and then it became more and more impossible. Yes.
It was too late. Yes. One of the things, I mean, the novel is very much a novel read by children. And the film is great we're going to be using it with students, but it also really appeals to adults. So how are you able to make that balance, a film that is both appealing to big kids and little kids?
That was Susan. That was something I talked with Judith Kerr about a lot, because that was a part of the changes that we did. I read the biography about Alfred Kerr, who is a very famous person in Germany. In the 20s, he was one of the most famous culture critics, you know, for theater, for film, for literature. He was an intellectual force. You know, he was not only loved by everybody because his pen was very sharp, and if he criticized somebody or wrote bad about a theater play or a director, he could literally kill that person in his job, you know. So I read that biography, and I thought what he thought about that rise of Hitler, about Germany, about Jews and Germans, and about what is going on in his mind about uh, the development is so interesting. It was so interesting to me that I wanted to get some of that feeling into the story. In Judith Kerr's book, there is nothing about that. For her, Alfred Kerr was the beloved daddy and father, and to me, Alfred Kerr, of course, was somebody else. So I took some letters from him, some correspondence into the screenplay, and I think those parts are not very entertaining for smaller children, but I felt to make the character of Alfred Kerr three-dimensional, I would love to take some of his thoughts into the movie. And that's
Yeah,
maybe what you're talking about when you say that it's also for grown-ups, maybe
yes,
interesting.
very much. And the character of the father, you can see where she worships him, but he also comes across as a little bit arrogant and,
Yes.
and imperious.
Yeah, he felt very humiliated, I think, in exile, Alfred Kerr. You know, that he said, like he says in the movie in one letter, the people who did everything to get to know me or be close to me in Germany, why is there nobody now who reaches out to us and to supports us a little bit maybe? And that was very painful for him, and he was very disappointed. And I think the feeling that Judith Kerr wrote down in her novel for children, that the whole journey was like an adventure, is in reality, has been in reality a very painful time for Alfred Kerr. But maybe he tried, or he did succeed in hiding the existential worries in front of his children.
Yes, and the mother, I understand also, she
Yeah.
wanted to commit suicide at one point, but obviously you don't get that in the book. You get that from the private readings.
Yes, exactly. So, Judith Kerr was, I think, about 50 when she wrote the book. And if I had to write a book now about my childhood when I was 8 or 9 years old, I wouldn't know all the details anymore as well. So she didn't call the little girl in her novel Judith. She called the little girl Anna because she knew that some parts of the story are maybe a little bit idolized or a little bit invented also, or out of the memory, so that's very subjective, and not everything has been so easy as she told it in the story, I think.
This is from Jan. Thank you for a beautifully told story through this film. The underlying tension that the father may be picked up by the Nazis and taken away was compelling. And a question here. When did Oliver Masucci, is that his name?
Yes.
The actor?
Yes.
Somebody wants to know when he became attached to play the father. Lots of people will recognize him from the Netflix series Dark. In
Yes.
the film, we were able to feel his struggle on so many levels. What was it like for him?
Yeah, strangely enough, he also played before. He became famous as a film actor in Germany through playing Hitler. And now he played Alfred Kerr. So he comes from the stage. He's a famous theater actor. He was at the Burg Theater in Vienna. And he is a very renowned theater actor. And he didn't film that much because his priority was always stage. And I was looking for a man who was warm and natural with children, and Oliver has children and he's very sweet and natural with them. I mean, of course actors can do anything, but I'm always looking for that connection between grown-ups and children, of course. And then at the same time, who is believably this intellectual that Alfred Kerr was. And I liked the roughness of his appearance. Oliver's face is, most of the time he plays the dark guy, the many times the gangster, and I like that contradiction. I always like to put actors in parts where maybe you don't suspect them. Very complex Alfred Kerr.
And was there a period of rehearsal where they got to know each other, the family as a unit?
Yes, we did a lot of meetings before. We did rehearsals all together, the family all together, but also one-to-one. I said many times with Riva. That's what I always do with children, because especially with the subject matter that is so important and has such a huge historic background, that I want to talk a lot with the children. And with Riva, I said many times, very comfortably in my living room or somewhere in the office on the couch, and we had hot chocolate and coffee and had the screenplay, and she could ask all the questions that she wanted to ask. And that is better when you do it one-to-one, I think, because then she has no worries that her question might be stupid or whatever. Then we talk a lot, and for me, it's always important that I have a strong relationship to my main children actors. And of course with Oliver too, but we made more fun with Oliver. We went for sushi because Riva loves sushi. We went, hiking in the mountains and did things like that together. So they get to know each other from a playful way.
Oh, that's great. This is from Alexander. You show various instances of anti-Semitism exhibited by people in neutral countries like Switzerland and allied countries like France. Do you think that anti-Semitism was rampant, or was it exhibited by the minority in the 1930s and 40s in those countries?
I'm not sure, Susan, if I understand the words. Is he saying that whether I think that the majority of the people was anti-Semitic?
Yes. So especially in the neutral countries, so countries that were meant to, not to be taking any kind of stand, there are still many people making anti-Semitic comments.
Yeah, I think in Switzerland, what I read about that time is that the Swiss wanted to hold back, draw themselves out of the conflict. They didn't want to get any trouble with Hitler and and the Nazis, and they didn't want to interfere in any way. And Alfred Kehr was very disappointed that they wouldn't stand up for the right idea, and they didn't get into confrontations with the Nazis. He wanted more support from a neutral country like Switzerland, and he was hoping that he could stay there and sell his articles, which were, of course, extremely political. But the newspapers in Zurich and in all those big cities, the newspapers that were of importance, they wouldn't print him anymore because they didn't want to confront Hitler and the Nazis with strong political ideas. And being neutral can be sometimes problematic too, because you let the people who are in danger, like you say in German, standing in the rain. You don't take a side, and that is not helpful as well. I think in France there were many there was a lot of anti-Semitism too, and that's what the family care experienced there too.
Okay, this is from Helen. Has the film been shown in Germany? And if yes, how did the audience react?
Fortunately, it did very well. We sold a lot of tickets. In Germany, you don't count the money a movie makes, but the sold tickets, and that was very, very good. Much better than average films for children. It was very, very well received. It's interesting when I show it in foreign countries. We talk a lot obviously about national socialism. In Germany, the big subject was for school classes and also for audiences, grown-up audiences, to talk with me about being a refugee. What does it mean to be a refugee? Because we have, since 2015, we have this big discussion about the refugees that come from Africa, the Middle East to Europe, and they want to come to Europe. How many do we take? How much can we open the country for refugees? And the movie, I think, also was welcomed as an how do you say, a possibility to talk with younger audience about how does it feel to be a stranger in countries, not to speak the language, and not finding a place where you are allowed to stay and where you are welcome.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, I want to get to that educational component here. Is the film being shown in schools in Germany, or is there a plan to have it in classrooms?
We have a huge initiative in Germany that is called the Schulkinowochen, the school cinema weeks, where some movies are picked each year to be presented to school classes in different ages. And When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit was booked by very, very many schools and the classes from 10 to 18. And unfortunately, then the corona broke out, the coronavirus, and all these school cinema weeks were canceled. So we hope that we can do it after corona is over one day, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we're also planning to be showing it to students. We always have a student week during the festival, and it will be very exciting to be able to show it to students. And I think that the issue of refugees is something that resonates very much with the Canadian audience. And I think
Yeah.
that's a great way into the film.
Yeah,
So,
what yeah, well, I think what children what they liked is that they could identify so easily with Anna and her brother, because these are children from the middle of our society. They are not different in any way. When children here read about the horrible and sad and poor lives people live in Africa or in war countries, then it is they tend to think, okay, this is a problem that is far away. This is what different regions of the world have problems with. But with those stories, with this story, maybe they realize it can happen to anybody. You don't have to do anything wrong. It can be a very painful reality from one day to the other. And it moved the children, and they asked me many questions about it.
Yeah, it's a very good film to use with students. This is from Tamar. Was there a reason why we could not hear what Anna's father told the apartment concierge when they left the apartment? Do you remember? So that's actually one of the questions that I want to ask students. What do you think he said to that woman?
Yeah. One thing was that he didn't want his children to hear what he said to that woman. And since Alfred Kerr was a very sharp writer, I can imagine he said something very unfriendly, but hopefully very intelligent too, not only mean or insulting, but also something that I don't know. We spoke, Oliver and I spoke about it. What do I tell her? And he made some sentences up that went into the direction, maybe like something like, it's because of people like you that Europe is on fire in a few years, or that it's burning, or that the Nazis will spread their evil power, or whatever. But I didn't want to put it in words. I just wanted him to have the last word in that relationship.
Yeah, no, that was very effective. I also wanted to ask you about something that you're doing now. I believe that you're working on a series about child psychologists. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm writing for the German television. I'm writing a series about two children's psychologists. Yes.
And I just want to see if we have any other questions here, because I have other questions. Um, one second, okay. One of the things that I really love about the film is the details.
Yeah.
The seeing things done through the eyes of a child, the pink rabbit. So can you talk a little bit about how you managed to convey big themes through small details?
I really, really loved Judith Kerr for that. And I told her that on the telephone too, that I think what we have in common is the belief, I think, that you can tell huge stories with huge historical backgrounds. If you individualize the situation, you don't want to talk about numbers or whatever, but in cinema to me is always looking through a magnifying glass on details. It's not about racing through scenes and constructing a plot or inventing a great story. The greatest story is nothing if the scenes aren't strong and unique, and the characters aren't unique and alive. And I think Judith Kerr invented or experienced, I don't know, moments and situations and dialogues that are so unforgettable. And that's what I really loved about her book. And I tried to bring that onto the screen. And the title, When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, is already a little bit like a sign for her looking onto childhood. People ask me, why is that book, why has that book such a weird title? And I think it's a wonderful title, because the pink rabbit, of course, stands for so many things. It stands for home, the lost home, the childhood, everything that you love, that is dear to you. And so Judith Kerr speaks through metaphors and details to tell the huge complex whole.
Yes, it was beautifully done. My phone is ringing and I'm just going to hang it up because it's very annoying. So sorry about that. Really
No
distracted me.
Yeah.
So what are the release plans? Like, is there a distributor where people can see this in Canada, or what is the general rollout for the film?
I really do not know how this movie ever comes to the theaters in Canada. We have, in the United States, we have a distribution company called Greenwich, and maybe they bring it out in Canada. I really do not know, and we all are very curious to see what happens with Corona, and how theaters can open and show the movie at all. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie has a chance to have a long life, because I think it's like the book from Judith Kerr. It's
Mhm.
timeless, and it will find its way. I have the feeling, because people react so strongly on Anna, on Riva and her family, and I'm
Mhm.
very, very happy and grateful that this worked so well with this sweet little girl with Riva, and she did such a good job. She did
Oh,
just
beautiful. They all did, but she was particularly, and I was thrilled when we got the film last year because I thought this is absolutely perfect for students. I know a lot of teachers have read the book, and I'm sure the book is still in circulation, so a lot of students have still read the book. And I hope to be playing it through our educational program for many years to come. So I
yeah,
hope that we can bring you one day to actually interact with the live student audience.
that would be
Uh,
nice. Yes.
and then you
Yeah.
can see how Canadian students react to the film.
Yeah. I think when you read the book, you think, oops, there's not a lot going on in the story. And I didn't want to change that. I didn't want to dramatize it from the outside, you know. Sometimes the money people or the producers, they suggested that we put a little bit more suspense in the story, you know, like images that we've seen maybe too many times
Huh.
in German movies about the Second World War, or Nazis, uh, people hanging, banging on the door, brown uniforms, you know, the swastika everywhere. And I always thought, if the book manages to tell that story in such a subtle way, you know, and there's a lot of optimism and positivity, but underneath there's this sadness and this pain and this melancholy, that there is no way back home, you know, and that must be enough. I don't want to dramatize it from the outside. I want it to have a strong deepness, and yeah, that felt
And I
important
think
to me.
it does. And certainly there's a lot of things that happen in the background, like when you hear when Uncle Julius comes and he talks about what happens to the professor who's
Yeah,
being treated like a dog. It's in the background, you know it's there. And you
yeah,
know that it's sinking in for Anna because that's when she refuses to blow on the watch. It's like
yes, yes,
she's
exactly.
absorbing these things and then,
Yes,
under processing it through a child's eyes. So you don't need to have the
yes.
brutality. It comes across much more effectively in a subtle way.
It felt a little bit dangerous to me, because Judith Kerr, and she experienced that, you know, she, as a Jewish girl, she said afterwards, that was the most beautiful time of my life, in a way, because we as a family were so close to each other. And it felt a little bit dangerous to me to make a movie in Germany about the persecution of Jews, and telling an optimistic story, which is kind of uplifting almost, because the family is so brave and so positive. And I thought, oops, but you know, why does the book work so well? And I always went back to the book when I became insecure, and I always thought, okay, this is like you said, the scene when they talk about that professor in Germany. In moments, Judith Kerr opens windows into the very, very dark world in Germany. What is happening there at the moment? And through those windows, you guess a very horrible reality. And the parents of the children, I think they managed so well to protect their children and to keep all the horrible information away from them, so that they could have a positive childhood, and the optimism gives them a lot of strength. But it was, yeah, it was the challenge about this book, to not play the whole Nazi time down, of course.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to wrap that up now. But thank you so much, Caroline, for bringing such a beautiful book and making such a beautiful, subtle, nuanced film. And I
Thank
can
you.
hardly wait to use it with students.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank
So I
you.
hope to see you in Toronto one day with the film.
That would be great. I'd love to come. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Caroline. Take care.
Bye bye.